everyone, this is your official warning that this talk is being recorded. Officially. Hi and welcome on behalf of Engineering Education. My name is Rachel. I have been on engineering education for a couple of years and running the Hacker Lab for even longer than that. I've been at 2 Sigma for 10 years, so feel free to come to me with any random historical questions. The Hacker Lab at 2 Sigma was created about 7 years ago by some members of NYC Resistor who thought it would be a great addition to 2 Sigma culture, which it is. We are a place that likes to tinker. We are a culture of people who like to take things apart and see how they work. We are a culture of hackers and makers and people who like to play. Why does 2 Sigma have a Hacker Lab? Because why not? Because they're fun, because it's a place for you to expand your thinking and maybe get some perspective at your data problems. So since we've been working at home for 18 months, we've sort of pivoted to these classes that relate a bit more to your life at home, cooking classes occasionally, and things that affect your home system, like building a home VPN server. I'm very excited to have Rob Diamond from Security teaching this class. Rob, please take it away. And if you have any questions, please feel free to come off mute.
Right. Okay, so first of all, as Rachel said, this is being recorded, and it's also going to be made available to the general public. So as a result, we have to give this disclaimer. So if you're not a 2 Sigma employee, please read this and take it seriously. So that said, I'll introduce myself. I'm a security architect. I'm with the security department here at 2 Sigma. I'm very involved in the Hacker Lab. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I sit very close to the Hacker Lab, so I'm in and out of there a lot. But I tend to fix things and help people out there a lot. I also teach a few classes, so I'm going to give a plug. Once we're back in the office, there's a couple of really good classes coming up. One I've given before, it's called the HypnoCube class, and it's a 4x4x4 LED desktop sculpture that cycles through different color patterns, 3D color patterns. It's actually really cool. Looks great. And this new one is called the Brachiograph class, and it's basically a drawing robot, Python-powered drawing robot. That the actual robot part is made out of 2 popsicle sticks, a clothespin, 3 servos, and hot glue. And it's super simple, but it works really, really well. So that'll be a new class. So I sent an email yesterday. I hope everyone has done this, but you should all have a Raspberry Pi, and it should be built and updated to the most current version of the Raspberry Pi OS. It should be connected to your network. It should have a static IP address on your network. But that said, if you haven't done it, it's not so bad, because I am going to be presenting, once we actually start the lab portion of the class, from this thing on GitHub. It's just an instruction list I put together that will work just fine if you don't do it at the same time as watching this class. So it'll be okay. So let's start. Let's talk about why you may want a home VPN. Obviously, the security aspects are great. It allows you to be at a Starbucks or a hotel network that may not be administered particularly well or set up particularly well. It'll enable you to safely use networks like that. It can provide a lot of privacy. And this is where, and yes, it's true for hotel and coffee shop networks, but your cell phone, when you are using your cell phone to connect to the internet and browse, you are giving a ton of information to your service provider, your cellular provider, or whatever ISP you're connected to, that you may not want to be giving them. So using a VPN prevents your cellular provider ISP from basically seeing what you're doing. Using a home VPN can give you access, direct access to your devices on your home network as if you were connected to your home network. So that's a nice benefit. And also, if you took Mazamel's class last week, where you set up DNS privacy and security, by connecting to your home network over VPN, you can then take advantage of all that stuff you just did. So basically, you are taking what you did to your home network and taking it with you on the road. So it's really nice. So let me just say one thing about VPNs, though. VPNs don't eliminate the problem. VPNs move the problem somewhere else. So really what we're talking about is, you're giving a lot of information away by connecting directly to a cell phone network or some weird Wi-Fi hotspot or whatever. So the best we can do is move the problem to a place that you trust more, e.g. your home. So even at your home, you're going to be giving information away to someone. If you followed Mazamel's direction, you're probably giving DNS information to Cloudflare. So if we set up a VPN to your home and you're using the DNS security stuff that you set up last week, you are then moving the problem to Cloudflare, which is a pretty good place to move it. You're never going to eliminate completely unless you're using Tor or something like that. So this was an interesting article that was just published a few weeks ago. That the Schneier on Security blog is a great security resource, but this talks about the issue. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So let's talk about what a VPN is first. For the purposes of this class, we're going to be setting up a authenticated and encrypted connection between your device, wherever it may be, and a Raspberry Pi that you have running on your home network. All right. So as a result, what it's going to be doing is kind of making your device, no matter where it is in the world, appear to be on your home network. So let's look at that graphically. Here we have a cell phone connected wirelessly, for instance, to a cell phone tower, maybe a Wi-Fi access point somewhere. Here's the internet. Here's your house. Here's devices in your house. Here's your Raspberry Pi in your house. So basically what we're doing is moving your phone from there to there using this VPN technology. What it looks like is this red line is an encrypted and authenticated tunnel running between your device and the Raspberry Pi. So when you actually use it, instead of, for say, directly accessing a website through a browser on your phone, what you're going to be doing is accessing your Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi is going to be accessing your website for you, basically. It's not a proxy. It's actually the HTTP connection or HTTPS connection takes this path. So from the website point of view, it looks like it's coming from your home network. In fact, if you go to that, like, what is my IP site, when you're running a VPN, it'll show up as your home network, not the network you're actually on. As I said before, a nice little bonus thing is that once you have your VPN set up, you can access other devices on your home network really easily. I do that a lot. I have some smart home stuff that is completely cut off from the internet, and this gives me safe access to it. So one thing we need to talk about, and it's important, is as a result of allowing yourself to connect to your Raspberry Pi from the internet, think about it. What you're actually doing is you're connecting the Raspberry Pi to the internet, right? So in a way, you are pretty much allowing anyone on the internet to connect to your Raspberry Pi sitting in your house. So we have to make sure we do this right. So we're going to do two very important things. We're going to make sure that the only service running on the Raspberry Pi that can be accessed from the internet is the VPN service that we're going to be setting up. And we're also going to make sure that the platform itself, the Raspberry Pi OS, and the VPN service software that we're running is constantly up to date. All right, so that'll make it much safer than if you just set it and forget it. All right, and we'll be talking about that during the lab portion. So this is what we're doing today, and this is actually super easy to do. The hardest part of what we're going to do has nothing to do with your Raspberry Pi. It's actually setting up some external stuff to make things easy. So the first thing we're going to do is, let's say here's your house, and your cable modem or whatever you have has an external IP address, right? And if unless you have a static IP address for your house, that address is probably going to change now and then. Depends on your ISP. I know some that change daily. I know others, like mine, hasn't changed in a couple of years now, but it might at any moment. You know, I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a free service on the internet that will assign a DNS name to your internet-facing interface on your cable modem. It will also accept requests to update that address. So we're going to set up a daemon, not a daemon, we're going to set up a service on your Raspberry Pi that's going to, every few minutes, say, check to see if the IP address has changed, and if it has, it's going to update the DNS service with your new IP address. Okay, so that's one thing we're going to do. We're going to install a package on your Raspberry Pi to provide the VPN service. And then we're going to set up your router on your network to forward VPN request connections coming from the internet to that service running on your Raspberry Pi. And finally, we're going to set up a VPN client on your device to use that thing you just set up at home. In the end, we're going to have this VPN available. And by the way, this as clients, yes, it works on phones, Android, it works on iPhones, iOS, it works on any laptops, Mac OS, Linux, Windows. There's clients available for just about everything out there. In terms of the VPN protocol we're going to use, we really basically have two choices out there, and WireGuard and OpenVPN. And we are going to be using WireGuard for this class. And these are the reasons I chose it. You don't have to. We can use OpenVPN if you. WireGuard is pretty neat. First of all, it's much simpler than OpenVPN. It's much more limited in what it can do. However, it's limited to only strong crypto algorithms, where OpenVPN gives you a wide choice, some of which are bad choices. So this will prevent you from making a bad choice. WireGuard is very, very lightweight in terms of bandwidth. It's a UDP, very lightweight UDP protocol. It connects pretty much instantly. It's much easier to set up and configure than OpenVPN, and the actual code base is much, much smaller than OpenVPN. However, OpenVPN does have its advantages. OpenVPN offers longer key lengths, and also it allows you to offload the crypto workload to crypto accelerator boards. But first of all, our Raspberry Pi doesn't have a crypto accelerator board, so that doesn't help. And most phones don't either. At least that's the way it used to be. I'm not sure about newer phones, but so it doesn't help us that much. So we're going to be using WireGuard for this class, but again, feel free to use OpenVPN if you wish. So that's the intro. Is there any questions before we move into the actual lab portion of this? Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
And if you're having any issues keeping up or whatever, feel free to drop a question in the Hacker Lab Slack channel, and I can interject with Rob,
Yeah,
or help
please.
traffic control.
Yeah.
So I have one question. So on other differences between OpenVPN and are there any? So WireGuard doesn't have like a TCP connection option like OpenVPN does, I guess.
It does not. No, WireGuard is a UDP protocol.
Have you seen like? Does it seem like it functions well with like if you have like a spotty data connection on your phone or something like that? Have you seen issues with that?
I haven't had any issues even on like I take the train when I commute and barely cover areas where the coverage drops completely or is really weak, and I've never had a problem that I wouldn't be having if I wasn't using a VPN. Yeah, sometimes it won't connect, but as soon as the connection comes back, I'm connected. It's very robust. It really is.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, we have raised hands, I think.
Yes, Mazamal and Josephine. Mazamal?
Yeah, so I would just like to add a little bit. So the WireGuard, the reason it uses UDP, it doesn't have any state. So it doesn't maintain any state. It's a stateless VPN connection.
Right.
So like even if you like it sends packet, server receives it, if it doesn't, it will retransmit. It doesn't know about the state of the connection to the upstream server.
Oh, interesting. So it might actually be even more stable than because I used to
Yeah.
use like an open VPN, and it was when I had spottiness, it kind of took a while to reconnect. So
Yeah,
that's
so
interesting.
like if you have a connection where you continuously dropping in, like you have like connecting and reconnecting, this performs better than any other VPN, let's say IPsec or even OpenVPN.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great, thank you.
And
Yeah, what is the channel called?
the
Slack channel? Hacker.
It's just HackerLab?
Yeah, all one word. It's in the social space.
Oh, social, I see. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I mentioned that you should have your Raspberry Pi configured, connected to your network, updated, and well, first of all, as I mentioned, this is where the instructions are for future reference, or if you can't do it live with us today. So you can refer to this. So I did put step 1 and step 2, which I'm going to go through. I'm going to skip through because you should have it done. They are pretty much the same as Mazamel's, although I think he's updated his a little. So, okay. So we're going to start with step 3 here. And this is something we're going to be doing for the sake of keeping our systems up to date. We're going to install a package, a Raspberry Pi package, or it's actually a Debian package called Unattended Upgrades. This will every day at just before 6 a.m. check to see if anything needs to be updated on your Raspberry Pi, including the WireGuard package, by the way. And it will go ahead and do the install. One thing it won't do, though, is if it needs to be rebooted. So as a result, I suggest going through the Unattended Upgrades package documentation, which I'm not going to do in this class. It'll tell you how to, if you want to do a reboot, but even more useful, I don't do a reboot. What I do is I have it send me an email whenever it does an upgrade, and the email will tell me if it needs to be rebooted or not. And that's outlined in the package documentation. You could also change the time it runs. I run mine at 3:30 a.m. So there you go. But we're going to start with this. So we're going to do everything. I'm going to do everything live. You can do it with me. Feel free to interrupt. I'm not going to be watching. I have the class going on a different screen. I won't be watching that. So Rachel, if you can keep an eye and let me know if someone wants to say something, okay? All right. So I'm connected to my Raspberry Pi here. We're going to start with installing package. If you do nothing, if you just install it and activate it, it will do the updates, as I said, around 6 a.m. And then what you can do is periodically do a apt update. It should tell you if you need to reboot or not. All right. So that's it. It's installed. The package is installed. We have to activate it with the dpackage reconfigure command. I'm just going to cut and paste. And just going to verify you want to do that. Of course, you say yes. And it's so that just adds a this is really important to do. And please do it. It'll make sure everything's up to date. Okay. Very simple. Okay. Now the next step is the most difficult part of this whole class. All right. And this is setting up a DNS name for your home network. There's a lot of different services out there that allow you to do this. You may not need to do this if you already have a DNS name. So you can skip this step. Obviously, if you have a static IP address, you can have your clients connect to that IP address instead of a DNS name, because if it's never going to change, you don't have to worry. The problem with having a dynamic DNS name is that if you set up your VPN client to use the IP address you have at the moment, when your IP address changes, your ISP changes your IP address, your VPN clients will stop working, because first of all, it won't know where to connect to, but also the certificate that is installed on your phone or remote device will no longer be valid, because it's keyed to the name that it uses to connect. So if that's why I suggest using a DNS instead of an IP address in general. All right. So I like FreeDNS, which is available at a website called thefree.org. They're awesome. They're free, as the name suggests, and I've been using them for a very long time, like 15 years or something like that. Never had an issue. But let's go through this. The first thing you're going to need to do is sign up. Sign up for a free account. Actually, give me a second. Sorry, I'm going to open a new window here. So again, if you just go to sign up for free, you can fill out the form, do the CAPTCHA, use your real email address. They do not spam you. They're a trustworthy organization, and you shouldn't have any problem. But if you're going to do this step, please sign up for an account right now. You do require, you need an account in order to do this. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to log in. I remember how. I think I am logged in, actually. Yeah, I am logged in.
You may need to give like a 15-second throttle or something so folks creating an account can keep up.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna just wait a bit until.
With that in mind,
Yep.
Rob, what's your favorite part of the Hacker Lab? Physical space.
My favorite part of the Hacker Lab. Well, the view's kind of nice, but I've been going into the office a few days a week lately, and something happened. What was it? Oh, Thor was in. Thor came into the office, and his monitor was all screwed up. Like it was loose. It wouldn't sit on the monitor arm correctly and stuff like that. And I took a look at it and said, hold on, let me see what we have in the Hacker Lab to fix this. So I walked in there and I found some old these little pieces of metal that came out of a disk drive, and I got Allen wrenches, everything I needed. Walked over his office, fixed his monitor. It's that's
White facility. You can take care of it.
On that note, I am caught up. I don't know if others are, but
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Unless we hear an objection. Go on, Rob.
Okay, so, all right. So assuming you're set up, go to the subdomains tab on the left where it says for members, and you'll see add a subdomain, all right? and click on that. And we're not going to do this yet. I just want to give you a little tour first, all right? This is where we're going to add your DNS name. Now, what they mean by a subdomain is they have a list of available domain names. The one that came up for me is chickenkiller.com in this particular case, but they have hundreds and hundreds of them available. And if you go to the left here and click on registry, all right, this is the list of available domains. There's 506 pages of them. There, 50,000 available. But just keep in mind, see this column status? Some say private. The private ones may not work for you. You might need to be in a certain group in order to use it. Some of them will work, but not necessarily. So pick one of the public ones. It won't give you any issues at all right? So anyway, we'll go back to the subdomains tab. Add a subdomain. So what we're going to do, like if I choose a subdomain name, and it could be anything, you just enter it, like Hubsnet, all right? When I complete this, which should be one word, my DNS name for my network is going to be, in this case, robsnet.chickenkiller.com, all right? If I choose a different one, this will be robsnet.crabdance.com, and that will be assigned to my my home network. Now they give you a little, they did you a little favor here. They did they put your home IP address or whatever IP address you're coming from at the moment in this field. Typically you can just leave it there. This is the destination is what's going to be updated with the cron script that you're going to be running on your Raspberry Pi later in the class. But this is fine, just leave that for now. Again, you don't need wildcard. Oh, enabled for all subscribers. That's new. It used to be for premium subscribers only. You don't need that. You can change this later on, by the way, if you decide you do want a wildcard domain, but we're just setting up a single domain, all right? So
just a repeating question from the Slack channel. If we have our own domain, can we use that instead?
Absolutely. If you already have a domain, use that. There's no need to go through this entire step if you already have a domain name for your network. It just needs to resolve to the public facing IP address on your cable modem or whatever you have at your house, okay? That's the only requirement. Or you can, if you have you can create a subdomain if you have an existing domain. Anyway, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna use robsnet.crabdance.com. I like that. Oh, and I have to set this.
I went with Crab Dance as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's nice. So so at this point, this should exist. In fact, I'm going to open up this window and I'm going to do a dig robsnet.crabdance.com. No, I don't have dig. Let's try host. This is the Raspberry Pi. Nope, not yet, but it should be there shortly. Let me just open another window for a second. Let me try one other thing. Did that work? NX domain. Not yet, but it should be there shortly once it's set up. All right, but that's what it comes down to. There is a once it propagates through the DNS land, it'll be available everywhere. And by the time we get to that step, it should be available. Okay. So let's. Anyone need more time before we move on? And I think that was the most difficult part of this class, by the way. So. All right. Oh, one more thing we're going to do. I'm glad I looked at the instructions. Is we're going to set up that. We're going to set up that script, cron script that will update your DNS name. So let me, they've changed things here. I think dynamic DNS. So I'm following my directions from last time. Click on dynamic DNS. And there should be something that says quick cron example. Yes, okay. So if you go down to, if you click over here on the left at dynamic DNS and scroll to the bottom, at the bottom should be your DNS record that you set up. And one of the options there should be quick cron example, okay? And I'm going to click there. And it basically gives you a commented cron script to run on your Raspberry Pi. The only thing that matters is this last line, which wrapped to 2 lines here, but this is the only thing that matters. Now, this string here is an API key. This is a secret, all right? Don't give this out to anyone. I'm showing it here because I'm not actually going to be using this. But that is your API key that gives you access to what needs to be accessed. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this to our Raspberry Pi cron tab. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to open up my Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to run cron tab -e, edit my cron tab. Choose your editor. I'm a VI guy, so I'm going to run VI. And there, you already have a cron tab file there. Which is just a bunch of comments. So I'm going to go to the bottom, open an extra line. I'm going to paste what I just got from the website and save it. And it's done. If I do cron tab on this L, which just prints your cron tab, you'll see it there. And by the way, for those, if you're not a Unix person, what this actually means is these are minutes on the hour. So every like starting at noon, at 12:02 and 12:07 and 12:12 and so on, it's going to run a command. And that command is this. It's going to do nothing for 47 seconds. Not sure why. And then it's going to do a wget, which is basically, it's like curl. It just reaches out to a website, and it's going to reach out to this website using this key. And it's going to do a couple of things. When it runs, it's going to run this, it's going to check to make sure that your IP address hasn't changed. And if it has changed, it's going to update your DNS. So it's going to put any output that showed up in this file right here. And let's see if it exists yet.
Then,
not yet, it hasn't run yet, but yeah, question?
I was just going to say, you can go back and rotate that API key, right, to clear out the one that we just displayed on the screen, since this is going to be public, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can generate another API key from the website.
Yep.
I mean, you got to play it. I can't tell you how to do it offhand, but
actually right in the go back right there. It says rotate token. Like if you go back one page, I want you to do it so that API key doesn't continue to exist once this is posted on the internet.
It says rotate.
Go back up. See rotate authentication token?
No.
Right there. The third one down, third link down.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I see. Well, I'm not going to. I'm not going to because I actually want this to work, and okay. I'm going to take all this down shortly.
Okay. Right, okay. Cool.
So it's not there yet. But let's check the. That's still not there. Did I spell it right? romsnet.crabdance.com. This should be here by now. Next domain. I'm not sure what's going on here, folks.
Can I just update? Sorry, I did on my one, and I'm using Cloudflare. And can you do like a lookup against Cloudflare? And
yeah,
for me.
They're 1111, right?
Yeah.
One thing I was also going to say, Rob,
yeah,
is
that worked.
Okay, that worked. I also did two different. I had done 2 different domains because I changed my mind in the middle of it, and one of them worked, one of them didn't. So it might just take a little longer.
Yeah.
Which one you registered with?
Yeah, it needs to propagate. So, all right, great. Cloudflare has it. Google
I can
doesn't
resolve
yet.
you too.
Yeah. So,
I'm not sure if this is still a question. I may have missed it earlier, but for the last line of the quick cron example, is there a no check certificate in the script?
let me look. Yes. See it right there?
Okay. It just wasn't in the step-by-step instructions, so wondering what the difference is.
Oh, because I haven't updated the step-by-step instructions since the last time I gave this class, and obviously the dynamic DNS people made a change to something. So I'll update it for the next run. But whoever's watching this, don't use my example. Use what you actually get from afraid.org. Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on? This is the fun part. So at this point, oh, let me just check one other thing. We should see a log. I don't know. I'm not having good luck. What am I doing? Actually, probably just didn't get any output yet. That's probably why it wasn't created. But okay, we'll just move on. It should be updating your DNS IP address at this point. All right, so let's move on. We're going to install the software on the Raspberry Pi itself. This is very straightforward. However, we do need a couple of prerequisites installed first, at least we used to. It certainly couldn't hurt to do this. So we're going to run, this will install these 2 packages, DNS utils and IP tables persistent. Okay, you can just say yes. All right.
Just curious, if I was very concerned with security, is piping scripts to bash kind of best practice?
No, it's horrible. It is horrible. I agree. Honestly, the first time I did this, I was like, seriously? They want me to do this? But if go look at, just do the curl and put the output onto a file and take a look, and it's fine. All right. I mean, it's not going to do anything. It just, the trade-off here is convenience, right? Yes, I agree. It's horrible, but
Okay.
I trust this.
Got it.
All right. So okay. Let's go ahead and do this. So the problem here is what we're doing is we're querying a website and just blindly taking the output or whatever spits out at us and running it as you on the Raspberry Pi. So I know it's not great, but it does make life easier, and it does seem to work very well. So here I go. This will install it. Now, I did notice something. I did this yesterday, the day before. It asks at one point now, and it didn't used to do this, if you want unattended upgrades installed. And it claims to do it, and however, it didn't when I tried it. So that's why I had us do it ahead of time. It certainly couldn't hurt if they fixed it since then. It won't hurt to have it installed already. So here we go. This is going to bring you through a series of questions. So let's do it. Zamel.
Yeah. So in my class, I basically created a shell script to basically update all the packages. I didn't use the like the OS unattended upgrades. The reason was because I also was updating the DNS, Pi-holes block list, as well as Cloudflare D and all of bunch of other stuff. So if you have that script, and I think if this is just the using the APT manager to update it, then you don't need anything. That will take care of it. The unattended upgrade part.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Just an FYI, it will be a duplicate, but other than that, if you haven't set it up in the past, that would now it would be a great time to set it up.
Okay, great. All right, so let's start. It's just warning us what it's going to do. That's what we want. So we've already set up a static IP address. So we're just going to, or you should have a static IP address set up if you did it with XAML last week. This will help you through it if you didn't. But I'm just going to say it's asking me, I want to, what I actually have is I have a reservation on my router for it. So that's what I'm going to do. If it's already set up, I think you can just say yes here. All right. So now it asks me which user will hold the VPN configurations. And there's only one user on the device. If you have multiple users on your device, you can choose whichever one you're going to use. I just have the one, so I'll select Pi. All right. And now here's the important question. Do you want to use WireGuard or OpenVPN? As I said, I like WireGuard. I'm going to choose WireGuard. If you want to use OpenVPN, that's fine. However, the directions will diverge quite a bit in a few minutes if you choose that route, and I do suggest using WireGuard. Okay, so here we go. It's going to download and install the packages it needs. Okay, at this point, we can choose a UDP port number to run WireGuard on. This is the default 51820. You can choose a different one if you'd like. Doesn't really matter. I mean, if you change the port, it might still be detected by someone scanning your network, and you know, limited point in changing your port. So I'm going to just use the default 51820. By the way, remember that number, write it down, because we're going to need it in the next section or down the road a little bit. 51820. It's just verifying. Yes, that's correct. Okay, now in this case, if you set up, if you took Mazamal's class last week and you chose to install Pi-hole, your Raspberry Pi is your DNS server for your network, in which case you should select Pi VPN is local DNS. Okay, just scroll down to there and hit space to select it. Okay, if for some reason you did not take Mazamal's class, this gives you the opportunity to choose another DNS provider for your VPN clients if you want. Even if you didn't take Mazamal's class and did not install Pi-hole, Pi VPN is local DNS will also work for you, because it'll just use it'll run DNS queries from your Pi-hole, which should be able to resolve from your Raspberry Pi. But this gives you some options. But I suggest using Pi VPN as local DNS. So we're going to do that. Now, here we go. If what it's asking here is whether the certificate that it's going to set up, the server-side certificate for your VPN, is going to have a name of your IP address or of a DNS name. Now, we just set up that DNS name. So that is what we're going to use in this case, all right? So we're going to say we're going to use a public DNS entry as the certified name on the certificate that it's going to generate for your clients. So we'll say OK. Now it's going to ask me, what is the DNS name? So we're going to enter that thing that was before, robsnet.webdance.com in my case. So you enter whatever DNS name you generated from afraid.org. Okay, that'll be the distinguished name on the certificate. It's verifying that you did that right. It looks good to me. Okay, it's going to generate the server keys. Okay, this is the part I mentioned before. It's offering to enable unattended upgrades. It did not work for me. Maybe it's been fixed. I don't know, but I tried it again after installing. It didn't hurt. So just say okay and say yes. That's just fine. Okay. So guess what? It's installed. And at this point, we're going to be doing our client configurations next. So we'll just hit OK. We can reboot.
Question from Angela.
Oh, sure.
I think I picked the wrong option and selected the static IP instead of the DNS name. How do I go back and change the config?
Okay. That's a good question. I think you can rerun it. It should work. There is a config file, but now I have to, let me just try to find the config file.
I think I did that too, and I hit escape a few times, and it just like continued to proceed through, and then said it was finished, and then I just reran the like whole script again, and it allows you to reconfigure. It's
Awesome.
the third option there, and you
Awesome.
just go back through from the beginning.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, you can also cancel it. You can do, if you do Control-C, it will cancel this installer, and then you can rerun it. It only installs after it get all the input from the user. It doesn't install as it goes. So you can do Control-C, kill the installer, and rerun it, and that should do it.
I tried Control-C and it didn't seem to work, but escape seemed to actually, I don't know. I tried both. Control-C didn't. Maybe you'll have results better than mine.
I'm going to go ahead and reboot. Let that happen. And then I'll reconnect. And then we're going to prepare client configurations. Now, while it's rebooting, I recommend that you create a VPN client configuration for each client that you may use. So while you can just have a single client configuration set up and then configure all your devices to use that same configuration, it's not a great idea. If you lose your phone, for instance, you'd have to delete your configurations for all of your devices if you're using a single configuration for all of them. So just create, just pick one to start with, your phone, for instance, and just add that one for now. You can add more clients later on. It's super easy, you'll see. So just think about which device you want to play with first, and that's the one we're gonna do. Okay. Let's see if it's up yet. Yep. There we go. It's back. All right. So we're going to run for the client I want to install the command PyVPN add. All right. And we're going to give it a name. Rob's phone. Okay. And it just what it did is it generated a certificate to be installed on your phone and configured the WireGuard server to recognize it. And if you look in the home directory of Pi, you will see a directory showed up called configs. We'll go there. And within there, there's a file, robsphone.conf. And again, I'm going to delete all this when we're done, so I don't mind showing this to you. It contains your device's private key. All right. This is the, by the way, it sets up a what's the word I'm thinking of? It sets up a new subnet and does IP tables tricks to this is the address that your device is going to be, assigned when it lands on your network. I take that back. Sorry. No, this is just the. No, okay, this is the address that it's going to be assigned, and sets up a virtual interface on your Raspberry Pi, and this is just the information for that. This information is the information that it needs to connect to. This is where it's going to connect, robsnet.craftsnet.com, port number 51820. And here's the public key of the Raspberry Pi VPN server software, and it also has a pre-shared key on top of that. So this is very sensitive stuff. You don't have to worry about this because there's a very cool command which you're going to use to move this information to your phone, and that's PiVPN -QR, and then the name of the device. And look what it does. It creates a QR code. All right, I'm going to have to make this bigger. And when we install the client, the VPN client on your phone, the client itself can read this QR code and set itself up. So you can't get easier than that. It's pretty nice.
Using PuTTY on Windows, that didn't seem to work. I get a bunch of like special characters, but not a QR code.
PuTTY. I am not a PuTTY person. I'm not a Windows person.
On Windows, Windows default PowerShell now supports SSH, so you should be able to just use PowerShell and SSH or the Windows terminal. So that's what I'm using.
Good point.
I'm using.
I'll give that a shot.
Yeah, good point.
Way to throw shade around.
Did that work, Kevin? Oh, come on. The
yeah, that's
PowerShell?
me. Yeah.
That worked? The PowerShell SSH?
Awesome. All right. Now, if you were adding a client that like a laptop client, you're going to actually need to import that file I showed you before, because the client doesn't. The QR code doesn't work on a laptop, but it works on mobile devices really well. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to do that in a later step, but you have a client set up on the Raspberry Pi ready to connect once you have your client configured. But before you can configure your device to use this, we need to set up port forwarding on your home router. And this is something else that I can't exactly tell you exactly what to do because it's different on every random router, but there's this link here that will, if you're not sure, you can go through this document and it tells you how to set up port forwarding on a bunch of different brands of routers, all right? But basically what this does is that you're going to set it up so that when your home router sees something coming in from the internet and asking for UDP port 51820, that port we set up, it will say, this needs to go to the Raspberry Pi. So it'll forward that connection directly to the Raspberry Pi. That's what port forwarding is, all right? So if you feel comfortable doing that now, please do. On most routers, it shouldn't require a router reboot. It should be pretty straightforward. If it does require a reboot, we're going to lose you while it reboots. But this is another tricky part if you're not that familiar with home networking equipment. Do we have any questions here?
Do we need to take a pause here?
I could use one, but I don't want to be that guy.
No. Let's take a little break. Let people do this.
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
So my laptop where I'm following the instructions is actually using my Raspberry Pi as DNS, and I think whatever we just did broke it. So my name resolution is completely busted.
Wait, could you say that your laptop?
I'm using a Raspberry Pi as a DNS server for my laptop, where I'm also taking the class, and I noticed that the name resolution, the name resolution is completely broken after whatever steps we have just taken to install PiVPN. Any pointers on where I should dig for problems?
Does it make any changes to the IP tables on the Raspberry Pi?
I think it's whatever was installing previously mentioned something about making changes to the IP tables.
It does make some changes to IP tables. It certainly does. Is
it block forwarding possibly?
It shouldn't. And did you have PyVPN installed? Oh, here.
I just installed PyVPN as a part of this.
You did. It should recognize that PyVPN is installed, and it does a couple of special things to make sure it all works well together. I'm sorry, Pi-hole. if you have Pi-hole installed,
yeah, I do have Pi-hole installed.
Yeah, it should just work. But here, Muzammel is asking.
So I would just check the on your Raspberry Pi. I would check the static IP configuration if you have used that one, and make sure you are using any public resolver, because for the encrypted even DNS setup, you need at least one non-encrypted DNS to bootstrap it, to do a first initial lookup, and then basically Raspberry Pi, the Pi-hole on top of it, just start doing the encrypted lookup. So I would just look at your static IP configuration in the Pi-hole and see if you have any static DNS assigned there.
Masmal, can you remind me where in the dashboard I can look for that, or maybe in the config file?
You have Pi-hole installed? Sorry,
yes,
I didn't. Okay. So if you go to the DNS class instructions, do you have that link?
I can't resolve in DNS, but once I turn it off, I'll be able to. Yes.
Okay. So let me ping you the exact configuration where you need to look, and then you can basically just make sure you have the identical configuration to the instruction, and that should do the trick.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think I have the same problem, basically, where if I'm connecting through the VPN, my DNS resolution is busted.
Huh. We didn't have this problem last time. I don't know what's changed.
So the one of the reason I can I was just looking at the installer, so I was just thinking I think uses the local interface, and I think the Pi-hole only listens to the other the IP address on the 80, basically whatever the IP is. So that could be it.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me of something. I had to make a change to my configuration not too long ago, to my Pi-hole configuration, and to listen on all interfaces. I had to have it listen on all, and I didn't used to have to do that.
Right. So try that if you have Pi-hole installed and you have problem. Go to Pi-hole and let me go to the exact steps. So let me log into my Pi-hole. 1 second.
That's right. I just remembered that. That happened a couple of months ago. Something changed.
While we're at it, should we add 51820 for internal port or external port?
For your both, actually. This is in your port forwarding configuration, correct?
Ben,
Rachel?
do you want to jump in?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So for port forwarding.
Yeah, you use both. Internal and external should be the same for port forwarding. It's it gives you the opportunity to map one port to another. Like you can have an external port of a different number, and whatever shows up on that port will be pushed over to the that one we just configured. But make it just the same on both. Yeah, internal, external.
I'm sorry, quick question, Musmal. We're going to post instructions on the hacker.
Yeah, I just posted. Sorry, I was just typing it in. So basically, if you go to you log into your Pi-hole, go to settings. On the left side, there should be on the menu there should be option setting.
Mm-hmm.
After that, there will be third tab on the top. It's called DNS.
Indeed. All right.
And then if you select listen on all interfaces, permit all origin, or that should be fine, or you can do like a listen on all interfaces. I think also do the permit all origin. because it is possible that it might allow on a one subnet, not the other. So just permit all origin, and that should fix the issue.
So basically, click on listen all interfaces, permit all origins, leave everything else unchanged, right?
Yes, yeah, try that, and that should fix it.
Okay, I currently actually don't have any upstream DNS service selected somehow. Am I supposed to have Cloudflare selected there? I don't remember.
If you have the class, like if you attend the class, you have to have like a custom one option, and then you have like a 172.0.0.1, and then the number sign, port 5053, I guess, and that should be selected.
All right, thank you very much. Let me try that.
Actually. All right.
I think that did the.
Oops. Maybe not. She left the meeting. Let's give her a chance to come back, and then we'll move on. We have plenty more time. We're certainly going to not need another hour for this unless people want it.
Anybody stuck? Anybody running into issues?
I got private messages. A couple of people had to drop off due to conflicts at 1. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Here she is. She's back. All right. You're back.
I think that did the trick. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
Good. All right. All right. Well, if anyone needs more time, go ahead and take it, but we can, those that are ready to go, if you haven't started already, go ahead and install WireGuard on your device. Go to the WireGuard site, which is linked right here, to get whatever you need. It's in the macOS App Store. It's in iOS App Store. Looks like Android Play. I don't use Android. It's in Play Store too. That's a direct download for Windows and Debian and other things. So go ahead and do it. Again, the phone ones have the QR code set up, which makes it super easy, and the laptop ones don't. At least they didn't used to last time I tried it. But all it is just importing that config file and installing it.
Could you show us how to import the config file?
Yeah. So, okay, give me a second here. This is on a Mac, obviously. All right. If I want, so this is the WireGuard client on Mac. I haven't done this in a while. See right here, file, import tunnel from file. This will open up a dialog of exactly where that file is. See, I should have deleted this. This is my old file for my actual config. That's sitting in a directory somewhere. I should delete that. But so you got to get that file off the Raspberry Pi onto your laptop first. You need assistance with that, or are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so
I'm also using a Mac.
Okay, you're using a Mac. So open up a window on your Mac. All right. So first, I'm going to go to my Raspberry Pi. All right. So So on my Raspberry Pi, there is a directory called configs where that file lives. So the path is configs/robsphone.conf. That's something to remember. And then on your device, on your Mac, all you do is SCP, the name of your, or the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, or the name of it if you have it named. I'll use the IP address, 1.p. What's my IP address? I don't even remember. 19. Okay. 19 : and then the path is without a slash configs robsphone.conf. All right. So this is the IP address of the device, : the path, space, dot, which is your current directory. It'll ask you for your password in your Raspberry Pi. You do it. And why doesn't this work? Oh, it's probably protected. Sorry. Huh. I am logged in as Pi. Oh, I know why. I'm sorry. When I did that wrong. I have to give it a username too. I'm sorry. So the command is that sep pi at the IP address : configs. Everything's the same. Just put pi at in front of the IP address and then enter your password. There you go. And now it's in my current directory. There it is. See right there. Okay. And then you can import the file using the file dialog on WireGuard.
Thank you.
Okay. So
and if anyone is having any other troubles, the people are answering questions for each other in the HackerLab Slack channel.
All right.
Or feel free to interject here.
Right. And once it's configured, I mean, I wish I can show you my phone. It's pretty easy. See, I'm not setting this up since this is a temporary. It just gives you a switch with the name of your network that you just switch on, and then you're connected. Simple as that. And you can go to your browser on your device or your phone, do a what is my IP, and you'll see it's coming from your home network, which I guess it would be anyway. The real test is to try it when you're away from your home. Disconnect from your Wi-Fi network, for instance, and do it over the cellular network, and it should show that you're on your home network and not your cellular network. And that's it.
Any questions?
I see. I brought up the HackerLab channel here. I've set up port forwarding on my router, same for extranet, but I still cannot pass the port check tool c.com check. I'm not sure what that is.
So the answer to that question is like you're never gonna do it because it's UDP. And another thing is, even if you have correctly forwarded the port, the only time your the Raspberry Pi is gonna send back a response when it get the packet which is signed by the right key.
That's right.
So, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what it is now. All right. Yeah, that'll never work.
Yeah, it's UDP. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, even if it's like, even if there are some UDP ports, like some scanners you can use to detect, it's not gonna send any response whatsoever unless the packet it receives is signed by a legit key.
Yeah, that's right.
It uses HMAC to sign each packet.
Yeah, that is very true. It stays silent unless you have the right key.
Jacob?
So I have my phone connected, and it doesn't seem like it's using the right DNS. It doesn't seem like it's going to my Pi hole. I'm still getting mobile ads and such.
Okay. Did you during setup remember that part where it said? Well, let me bring up that portion of the directions. Give me a second.
So one easy solution could be you can go into the settings, like on the phone, like of that particular, and you can change the DNS to the IP of your Pi hole. It will still work. Routing still will work. You can use whatever the IP address you sign when you set it up the Pi hole. It will still work.
you might have to. So maybe this has changed too. You might actually have to set up a custom config. Like if your Pi-hole, but remind me, Masamel, is the Pi-hole itself? If you query the, what am I trying to say? If you query the Raspberry Pi on port 53, does it go through Pi-hole or not?
Yes. So
It
if
does.
you, yeah.
Okay.
So if you, let's say you assign the like 192.168.1.200, let's say, right, to the Pi hole, and if you query that IP 1.200 at port 53, it will go through the Pi hole.
Right. So this should work unless you set your DNS provider incorrectly. And if not, yes, you can. Right on the, if I remember, right on the. Let me just take a look at something. Sorry, I'm looking on my phone. Yeah, if you go into WireGuard, okay. If you go into the WireGuard client on your phone and turn off the VPN, just click on your VPN name and scroll down. You can actually edit your DNS server entry right there if it ended up being wrong. And then you can just regenerate on your Pi VPN server. You can regenerate the config if you want to keep it permanent. Okay, that makes sense, Jacob?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I continued digging around and I found the problem was I had set up private DNS in the Android settings on my phone.
Okay, yeah, that'll do it.
1.1.1.1 because that was like a little better than using whatever my ISP's DNS.
Right.
I had to turn that off. That was
okay.
overriding. I turned that off, and now it seems to be going, and I can see on my Pi-hole admin screen, it's like stuff is going through there now.
Okay. Awesome. All right, that's great. Any other issues or questions, requests?
I have a question about the bandwidth, because I tried, everything works for me now, but I'm wondering, like, is it cutting the bandwidth significantly going through the VPN connection?
I'm sorry, the question is what, performance? I missed
No,
some of that.
the speed of the connection.
Well, it's going to be limited by the slowest link in the path, right? So if you have, for instance, if your ISP connection from your home to your ISP is slow, and you're on a very fast Wi-Fi network, it's going to be limited. It's the slowest link in the chain that's going to dictate your overall speed, right? So, like, there is a downside possibly if you have a slow home internet connection. No matter what your phone is connected to, you're going to experience that speed. That's really what it comes down to.
I guess the question is, imagine a world where we had a perfect network all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
What's sort of the ceiling for performance on a Raspberry Pi VPN?
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the thing that will suffer is latency more than bandwidth, right? It does add latency, but for typical web browsing and stuff, personally for me, it's not even noticeable at all. As long as I don't think, I think a modern Raspberry Pi is going to do just fine with internet bandwidth speeds. That's my personal opinion. Masamel is raising his hand. He might have a different opinion.
No, I agree with Rob. So look, I have done this benchmarking. So just to answer this particular question, so basically on a Raspberry Pi 4, if you are on an ideal network, you can get around 500 megabit per second.
Okay,
it's better than I'd expect.
Yes. So the only like one part which most of people don't consider is it also depends how good the your router is doing the port forwarding, because every time the packets come, it has to route it. It depends what like what particular Linux package they are using to do it, and like how old the version is, if there are any bug. So it also depends upon your router's performance. But on a general, on a consumer router, decent one, if it's built anytime after 2015, you should be able to get approximately 500 megabit per second, and if you have a gigabit internet connection at home.
Right.
Yes, Selena, I think you have a question.
Yeah, quick question about the router's configuration. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. So for port forwarding, is it the same external and internal port? So we're port forwarding 51820?
That's fine. If you have the same external and internal, it's fine. It's your choice if you want to do something different, but I have it set for the same internal and external.
Right, but in terms of having the phone client set up, like how does it know port?
It's just, the only one that matters to the phone client is the external port that you have set up on your router.
So, okay.
All right.
I guess I'll just
okay, all that is what it's the IP, your public IP address, and the port number to connect to. And if you use a different internal port, that's handled by a router, and your phone doesn't even know it's happening.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
That's good.
Anyone else?
Questions or comments?
I've got a quick one.
Yeah, Ben.
So I think I've done all the steps right, but so when I go to whatismyip.com, when I'm not on my Wi-Fi on my phone, I'm seeing the IP address like from my computer, not the IP address of the Pi. Is that expected?
You should be seeing your public IP address.
Yeah, it says public IP. It's different than the one that I get when I just use cell phone data regularly.
Right.
So I guess that's a good thing, but I wasn't sure whether I should be seeing the numbers that I usually use for the Pi.
You'll be seeing your ISP assigned IP address, the one that your cable modem gets.
Cool.
And that would be true of if your phone is on Wi-Fi without any of this stuff, it should be exactly the same. The real test is, well, if you connect to your carriers, AT&T or whoever you use, data network, right, with the VPN off, do it. You should see some IP address associated with your carrier, and then if you turn the VPN on, you should see a IP address associated with your home network provider. And if that's the case, you did it right.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thanks.
And if you're interested, try to connect. I mean, if you have something to connect to on your home network, try that when you're not on Wi-Fi, and you should be able to connect to it.
Questions, comments? Or any other last thoughts on this? If you do have further questions, if you run into any issues, please join us in the Hacker Lab Slack channel or reach out to Rob.
Yeah, I'll be watching the Hacker Lab Slack channel today, and or send me an email, either one, or a Slack message, whatever, it's fine.
And
or
Rob,
or Mazamo, because he's the networking guru here.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
If for some reason you missed the DNS class, it's up on TS Hub and it'll be up for you to go back through. This will be up later for you to go back through.
All right. Sorry to put that on you, Ms. Hamill.
Yeah, no worry. Happy to help. Yeah, that's why I joined this call. Like, if anyone has any question, or I know like integrating two different pieces of software together is a little bit challenging. Like from time to time, the Pi-hole will change the config, or the Cloudflare, or the Pi VPN. So sometimes you have to just make sure you update your documentation, and sometimes there are issues which you can't anticipate, and you have to solve it on the fly.
That's right.
It's part of the fun.
Mhm.
Makes it hacker labby.
All right. And when we're back in session at the office, looking forward to seeing everyone, and sign up for those RD kind of classes.
And come to the hacking hangs.
Yeah, come to the hacking hangs and join us. It's a lot of fun. If you're one of the newer folks at 2 Sigma that joined over the last year and a half, it's an awesome community. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Rob has been fixing up the machines in the Hacker Lab, so all the 3D printers will be working.
Right.
If you have any interest in creating a class or putting something together or have an idea, reach out to me. It's really not that daunting, and I'll help you make it happen. With that, I hope everyone has an excellent day. Please do reach out if you have any questions.